Well, here we are on filmsgonewild.com. Uh, we are going to talk to Jena Burchick. She's the director of Mom and M, which is screening at the Lake Travis Film Festival. Jena, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I'm really thrilled to be here, appreciative of being here.
Absolutely. All right, let's start it off this way. You introduce our audience to the film. They haven't seen it yet, so tell us about Mom and M.
Absolutely, sure. So, Mom and M is a feature length documentary film about choosing family. It's an intimate portrait film about a family in Baltimore that I followed for 3 years. One of the partners happens to be transgender, so we navigate her coming out throughout the film. And then they have an adopted daughter named Sansa who battles leukemia. So this is jam packed with a lot of overcoming a lot of adversity and striving for love and acceptance throughout the hour-long film.
There is a lot going on with the three of them, and which is what I wanted to start off talking about, because one of the things that I really like about the film is that there's a casual nature to how they let you and your camera into their lives, and yet there's so much going on. They are going through so much while you are with them. And I found that remarkable. And I would love for you to talk about um, that aspect as a filmmaker, where you were in the middle of, in this case, people trying to figure out their lives in such a sincere, not a kind of a trumped up, made up, dramatic way, but this is just real life, real stuff. So talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So with documentary filmmaking, access is everything. You cannot tell a story, a truthful story, without access, and the way of getting access is trust. And I believe in that personally as a filmmaker. That kind of my approach is that I'm not extracting a story. I'm sharing someone's story with as unbiased of a lens as possible. And I am a cisgender woman telling a transgender woman's story. So, the amount of research that you need to do when you are telling a story about a community you're not a part of, to be able to gain that trust in that relationship is crucial first and foremost. And so with that, I also decided, and I'm not sure that I'll do this again in the future, we'll see, but I was a one woman band for the entire film. It was just me doing camera, doing sound. Later on, I brought in a camera operator for interviews so I could connect directly with Nikki and Elise, the two main participants in the film, the couple. But really, I just wanted to be in that space with them, just me, without there being any spectacle, so they could just exist and be themselves. And then also allowing for space without the camera. There's a child named Sansa in the film who's 6 when we're doing the film. She's just turned 9 now. And she, at first, she had to get used to me and get used to the extension of the camera. So if she ran up and wanted to touch it, I accepted that I'm going to stop and I'm going to let her hold it and play with the camera and want me there and want to build that relationship. And I do think that that came through in the final film, that it was really just more of a relationship than it was me as a filmmaker intruding upon their space with a big crew or a lot of lights or a lot of equipment.
Well, you literally led me into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which was Sansa, and it was the idea of, obviously people have filmed children in documentaries and what have you, but she is such an exceptionally lively child,
Yeah.
and which is a delight. But I was thinking as I was watching it as a documentarian to go, I need to, there has to be some kind of control, or is there, or, I was worrying about you as I was watching the film, behind the camera. So talk about her a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So Sansa is like complete vibrance. I mean, she is one of the strongest people you'll ever meet, and she's just 9, and in the film she's 6. And I had these great plans of cinematography, of a tripod and slowly meditative shots, and was really inspired by long takes. And the first time I met her, I just watched her zooms back and forth to the point where I felt exhausted. Um, where immediately I went, okay, this entire film is handheld. I need to, and I picked one lens, one zoom lens. That was it for the whole film because there wasn't time. If she was going to go and do something, like there's part of the film, she has a procedure where she's disconnected from these tubes, and in the
Right.
beginning she's singing, I'm gonna be free. And if I was on a tripod and I was committed to my cinematography, I would have missed that. Really, like, that's a deep moment for a child to sing out they're going to be free from being connected to this medical equipment. She knows everything about her procedures, she can repeat it, but then at the same time she has all of these other developmental delays that she's going through, and really just, you had to look at her as a fully fleshed out person, not just a child. I think sometimes children are discredited a little bit because of their age, but because of the amount of life experience this kid had. I needed to be on the ground with her. I needed to be at her level. I needed to be on the floor at times and let her run the show and just accept that I was in her world the entire time.
And then the next question I had was actually regarding Elise, because Nikki's going through the transition
Yeah.
of her life, and and we've seen that kind of approached in various ways, and if we've watched any kind of films or have any kind of awareness with transgender people and the transition, but Elise's process
Yeah.
of acceptance and acceptance to the point that she could start saying, something, I've been doing this for a while, and maybe now we start doing something else. And that I was also wondering, again, as a documentarian, because I know sometimes you have mapped out, a documentarian has mapped out the story, and you're going, well, I'm going to put in this footage, I'm going to put in this interview, and this is how it will work. And then sometimes we go, well, we're just going for a ride.
Yeah.
But in this case, I was wondering, oh, is Elise going to change the entire movie from what Jenna thought it was going to be in the beginning?
Mm.
So did that happen?
Well, to be honest, this was originally, I'll try to keep this story short, but this was originally meant to be a short film that I was going to do on several incredible trans artists in the Baltimore community. It was never meant to be a feature about one family. And when I met Nikki, and then I met, by proxy, I met Elise and Sansa, within one day I went, oh my gosh, like their story is huge. It's too big to be put into, like, they would have been 2 minutes of a short film. And
Right.
Elise was a huge part of that, because statistically, when a partner comes out as trans, especially male to female transition, the other partner usually bails. They
Right.
don't they don't stick around often statistically.
Right.
And Elise, in the realm of the film, so I was with them for filming really for a year and a half straight, but then kind of coming back within the next year or so. She was going through such an evolution. She was thinking about her sexuality now. Nikki is the only partner she'd ever had. The first person she had dated. They have this entire history of growing up in a Baptist deep South like culture, where she was coming up against not just, do I want to be with my person, but does this make me queer? Does this make me a lesbian? Does this make me lose my family? Does this make me lose my church? And yeah, all of those things happened. And so at first I was so focused on Nikki, thinking I was making this short film. Out of the corner of my eye, I started realizing, oh, Elise has more barriers up than anyone else, because she hasn't been afforded the time, because of their daughter's relapses and their daughter going through leukemia. She hasn't had the time to process who she was inside. And so at a little bit after the midway point in the film, Nikki and Elise give me what is essentially a therapy session on camera. I
Yeah.
didn't ask them to face each other. I did not ask them to talk to each other. I was blown away where Elise steps up and says, I have needs, and
Yeah.
they're not, I don't think they're being met. And I'm not saying, hey, Nikki, this is your fault, but I'm saying, oh, I need to face this now, and I need to figure out who I am and where my point of growth is. So in terms of gaining trust and access as a filmmaker, Elise was absolutely towards the later half of the film, my focus shifted, and I was like, I need to spend a lot more time with her. Um,
It's such a remarkable moment.
yeah,
It is such a remarkable moment, and for both of them, because you know, uh, Nikki. I mean, unless you're going through the transition, you know, you're cisgender female, I'm cisgender male. We have no idea. We have no realm of being able to to be in that headspace, right? And and so not only is Elise in that moment doing something that I'd never seen actually captured on camera, which was exactly how you described that. But then Nikki also has that amazing clarity of self to go, you're absolutely right. And and I've noticed this too. And yes, and it is such like a cheerleading for a couple moment that like, oh my God, it was just really, really cool.
yeah, I've really meditated over that, and I like to call that radical communication, that I think can only be learned through therapy, to be honest, where you can tell that they have done the work with another person in that room, helping them learn how to share space and give
Yeah.
space to the other person. Because when couples come up against difficult things, I feel like often you're listening, but you're listening to respond really quickly or to feel offended. And it was not that. It was so gentle and supportive. I mean, if you would have had a camera on me, my jaw was on the floor while it was happening, because I was just not necessarily even as a filmmaker, but just as a person. I'm a wife, I have a partner. Like, I don't know that I have that capacity in me. I think that that's really just remarkable.
No, it was. All right, we're going to finish up with two button questions,
Sure.
which we've just started on this festival. So you're going to be the very first filmmaker we've done this with.
Oh,
All
okay.
right. Okay. The first question is, as filmmakers, oftentimes we have that moment where we're going, "What the hell am I doing? Why? I should have made a different decision in my life many years ago." But and when we have those moments, there's one film there's usually one film that we can turn to that goes, this is why I did this in the first place. This is what inspired me. This seeing this film was the film that got me going to become a filmmaker. And if I return to it and I pop it in the DVD player or what have you, maybe that can get me over this hump and get me going again. If there's a film like that for you, what would that film be?
Oh my gosh, the one film question is so brutal. Because like I didn't have an aha moment. I grew up surrounded by parents working in newspaper, so I just wanted to tell stories. But I will say, maybe like a little later in life, something that told me I wanted to make change and have conversations spark from my films was Human Flow by Ai Weiwei. It's about displacement, our refugee crisis throughout the world globally, and he uses a drone to really show visual symbolism of the like amounts of people that are displaced. And it was this connection between content and how we can use a camera to evoke visual symbolism that just, it showed me that documentary doesn't necessarily have to be hard-hitting journalism. It can also be a kind of art. It can be poetic. And I'm really interested, there's actual poetry in this film. I'm really interested in taking a documentary, but having the audience do a little bit of work and be part of art and visual poetry. So yeah, so I would say if you haven't seen Human Flow, it's a remarkable film.
I like that. I like that. The second button question, um, much easier. Popcorn or candy?
Popcorn or candy? Ooh, popcorn. Popcorn, and I'm definitely the person that looks over my shoulder and pumps the extra butter on too. And then I'm in Baltimore, so it's Old Bay all over the popcorn. So if you haven't tried that out there, pick up some Old Bay if you can get some in your city and dump it on your popcorn. It's a game changer.
Okay, awesome. Jena, this has been great talking to you. We've been talking with Jena Burchick. She's the director of Mom and M, which is screening at the Lake Travis Film Festival. It's been a great talk.
You too. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.